Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for our first webinar of the year. Going to give people just a few seconds to get acclimated. We're super happy that we could have Melissa McFarlane here with us today. I do want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items as people are joining the room. If you do have any questions now or during the presentation, you can use the Ask Your Question box on the bottom of the webinar dashboard or the Q&A button. Just type in your question and hit send. We'll keep an eye on those, try to get to as many as we can at the end. If you do have any technical issues during the call, close the Zoom window and restart using the same registration link or refresh your browser if you're using a browser. Typically, issues are Wi-Fi related. And then finally, we'll be sending out a link of the recording of the webinar, as well as our post-event survey that we always send right after this talk to all of our registrants. We, of course, hugely appreciate any feedback on that. And now, before we kick it off, I'm very pleased to introduce Melissa. She's an internationally recognized executive, business, and personal coach with more than 30 years of experience. As founder and CEO of Creative Successful Entrepreneurs, she helps entrepreneurs, freelance talent, and small business owners start and grow successful businesses they love. Through a focus on marketing, sales, packaging and pricing, and business and self-management skills, she helps her clients turn underperforming, overwhelming, and cash-poor businesses into creative, energizing, and profitable ones. Her goal is to help all creative entrepreneurs, such as coaches, teachers, healers, artists, writers, designers, inventors, speakers, and many more, to get their big talent and ideas into the world where those ideas and skills can make a difference. Melissa, it's great to see you again. Thank you for being here. I'll let you take it away.
Oh, Max, thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here with Northwestern alumni, et cetera. It's always great to be in a room with people from NU. You just know you're going to be having a fast, fun, quality time. So I want to welcome you all here today. We're going to be diving right into this sort of mini walkthrough of a process I use with my clients. We just completed it here in our world for our clients and for our invited list. And this process is something I've done for probably 30 years. We have people that have come to the workshop for 20 years in a row. And it has transformed their lives or over and over and over again. So this process I'm going to lay out today is a good one to kind of absorb. We're not going to get all the way through the work at all, so don't try. But I am going to give you all the resources you need. There's a workbook I'm going to share that you can see and watch while you're, moving through the time with us today. But I would mostly just recommend that you kind of stay with me. Keep a piece of paper next to you and make a time on your calendar, a good hour or two different moments in your next week, probably. So sometime before the end of January to walk yourself through this process. I'm going to kind of speed through it and pull out the highlights of the things that will make the biggest difference for you. We are not only in a process, but we are also in a learning about a couple tools that have been revolutionary for our clients over the years. So, and really fun. The other day, we just did this on Saturday and Sunday. And the other day, when we were doing that, there were a bunch of people there who've done it before. And they pulled out some of these tools that we use and started sharing into the room what had happened for them as a result of kind of claiming and naming what they were ready for in their lives. In addition to Creative Successful Entrepreneurs, I run a company called the Make Good Company. It's kind of an umbrella company around all of that. And this year, we're about to launch a new brand called The Whole Coach, which I'm very excited about. And this process is one of the underpinnings of our philosophy behind that brand. So thank you, welcome, and let's go ahead and dive in. This is a proven vision and goal setting workshop. You're going to get to start fresh from wherever you are. This is for those of you who like this kind of thing, the kind of cosmos or energetics of the world. I'll share that this year is a 1 year on the heels of a 9 year in numerology. It is the year of the fire horse. There are words about 2026 that sort of energetics arena people are sharing out in the world, like gallop and harness and focus. Seems to be a very important year to lots of good energy, but not a good year to just sit back and cross your fingers. So a very important year to make decisions, to harness the very few things you're going to focus on. So this process will help you to do that. Last year was a year of a snake. It was a shedding year, and it was the year, a 9 year. So the end of a decade, essentially, or almost a decade. And so you can think for a minute, gosh, maybe what you're completing and looking to create is not just last year. Maybe you're here in this space thinking, how can I let go of not just 2025, but the last decade or whatnot. So this is a very useful process to create an actual action plan moving forward for those of you who like that nitty gritty of a real plan and a what am I doing tomorrow kind of thing. So you're gonna, and some of you will just find that you use the process to transform yourself on a kind of a unconscious, to begin to partner with your subconscious, your unconscious mind. So we're going to feel good about the past and create a future we're excited about in this process, or at least I'm going to show you how. All right. So the process is pretty simple. First, we do a little bit of releasing toxic habits, toxic thoughts, or just things that don't work. We align quickly with the future that is the non-negotiable one for you. So we can do that kind of, I know we mentioned resolutions as we called out what this workshop was about, but we have learned, the whole world has learned that resolutions don't really work. You know, the willpower of setting a resolution is not really where it's at for creating a future that you love. So we're gonna be talking about um, how to align with the future that you really want that's non-negotiable for you in today's process. And we're going to create a lifestyle for you or talk about the lifestyle that would be a match for you moving forward. So there is a workbook. I am going to go ahead and share in chat now a bunch of links just because we know some of you come, you can't stay the whole time. Others of you will arrive late, etc. It's all good. So I'm going to put a bunch of links that we know people will ask for. Please ignore them if you're not interested, no problem at all. The first thing I'm giving you here in the links in the chat is a link to find the entire process with all the videos walking through each piece of the workbook of the process that I'm going to lay out for you today. So it's a way to sort of slow down to speed up. So if you know you want to kind of learn it today, begin to get started, and then get out of the room and do it in a slower way with yourself, totally recommend you purchase that. And we've made it $10. So super easy. We find that people pay attention to things they pay something for. So that's that. If you know that you're wanting to process what you find in the room today or in that process, you can hop on my calendar. That's a free link to get on my calendar if you're knowing you're wanting to talk about what you dig out of the day today. And then there's a link here just to the workbook itself, a simple workbook for you. And also some ideas. Some of you are curious when you heard Mac talk about what we do over here at Creative Successful Entrepreneurs. If you're curious about that or the whole coach, you may want to check out Work With Us. That's a lot of other things, kind of what we do. All right, those are those links. Here's the thing though, we've got like 45 minutes. I will leave time for questions and some engagement at the end. I will say that process that is live that we just went through over the weekend, we did a lot of processing with people, helping them to find that word, find their behavior, align their behavior, really discover it. Because, you know, the thing is that we tend to create our futures from our past. We tend to do that because that's what we're most conscious to. Even if we're trying to lean into what we would rather have in our lives or the more of the good, we are so oriented around, you know, what we already have created. And what we've already created, and this is a much bigger conversation, is a product of all kinds of unconscious, subconscious material that gets installed from the moment you are born here. Some people would say prior to the moment that you're born here. It's all sort of installed there really before you could control anything. So you spend a lot of our lives, we spend a lot of our lives getting awake and aware to what those unconscious installments are. So as we go through this process today, you will find that some things you can get just a certain distance on, and then you need someone else to pull it out of you. So you could share this workbook with a friend or something like that and have them ask you the questions, have them, especially if they know you really well, your partner knows you really well, you have a coach, a therapist, somebody that can actually see how far you got with the word you're thinking of or the place you're wanting to go and can pull you a little bit further with those things. So here we go. I would put everything away right now, you know, settle down, grab a paper and a pencil because we may move fast in a way that you'll want to take really fast analog notes and not try to type into a workbook or whatnot. So try that. I do recommend that you do two things. These are two tools that we use in this process. And this may be the the best thing you get out of this workshop today, this webinar, is just thinking about these two types of tools. So we say over here at CSE, as we're helping people build their businesses or align their own internal personality to their results that they're wanting to get, really kind of a soul and personality alignment in their careers. When we're doing that, we know that there is so much to do, right? So many corners we can go into. So we have a little phrase here that goes like this: so much to do, but really only two things: now and next. So much to do, but really just two things: now and next. So you may want to keep a now and a next column, to-do list, action list here, even though we're going to give you an action plan, a way to map out an action plan for your entire year, really aligned with who you are and who you're wanting to become. You still may find that just having a little cheat sheet now and next is helpful. Now means the very few things that are what we would call a cascade correction, something that is like, you do this and everything else will change. If you would just prioritize this other thing in front of all the stuff you normally do, everything would change, For example, waking up an hour earlier or whatever. And some of those things are one like quick, and others of them, like waking up an hour earlier, could take you 3 months to get the hang of, right? So putting that most important in the now column. And the next is everything else that is pretty important, but not all the little minutia, uh, whatever tactics, actions, but the kind of major next things that should be focused on, but not the most immediate. Now is right now. I promise I'll do these right now. Next, right after that. Okay. And then we just let life flow from there. So that's number one tool, now and next. The second tool we want to bring your attention to, and this is a life-changing tool. This is something that has totally transformed our clients' lives. It's something I created for myself 30 years ago, and I found, wow, this is actually really helpful. So this is something we call a power perspective deck. Let's see if we can talk just a little bit about this. Basically, we know that negative beliefs are perpetuated every time the conscious mind tries to consider a different outcome than what we remember from the past. So we end up sort of trying to build our futures through this reality of something that isn't what we want in our future. Can be really difficult trying to do that. If you want to experience more success or new results in your life, you're going to need better thoughts. And that is a very hard thing to install, just time wise, like hard to kind of capture a system for that. So that's what this tool is all about, a way to start installing thoughts that align with the future that you want. So power perspective is a little word I created. They're thoughts to design a life that you want to live, all of the life that you want to live. And the way we do this is to write one item on a blank index card, punch a hole in all the index cards, put a loop in it, a string, or we use a little, metal binder clip. And it becomes what we would call a flip deck in that way. And so I want to encourage you to be keeping on a page. You can do it on a single page and then break it up into a power perspective deck of your own. Little phrases as we go along. So we're going to be looking at goals and life lessons, and we're going to be looking at nows and nexts and some phrases that are going to direct you for the year, right? Those things would all go on your power perspective deck. And we'll do them in order. So that'll give you, and then you can take that around with you. I used to keep it in my purse, in my car. And when I was at a doctor's office, I just flip through it. And the thing about a power perspective deck is we don't need to think it hard. We don't need to look at the item and really embody it and somatically embrace the thing. We just need to let it go past the eye and let us read it. If you have time, you want to thematically engage and align with it, awesome, really awesome, great. If you want to dance to it, super. But most of us don't have time to do that. So this tool we have found, as people flip through this deck on a regular basis, just looking at all the items they put there, you can add and add and add. For those of you who like to feel accomplishments, some of you may move some of your power perspectives over the years into a little box, done. That's just part of who I am. I like to keep mine all in the deck because I get to see how I've grown, and I get to see what used to feel so hard or so strange to think. For example, one of the first power perspectives I wrote This is good for you Northwestern grads here and you multiple graduates there. I know a lot of you have done not just one degree at Northwestern, but maybe two or at some other institution. I know you guys, right? All you smarty pantses out there. I'll tell you that this one particular power perspective that I wrote really early on is good for probably many of you. And it went like this: the easier I make it, the better life gets. I had a common, a tendency to make everything kind of complicated and hard. It was part of the identity, right? I can do hard things. I can do complicated things, whatever. But it was really hard to live a gorgeous, relaxed, enjoyable life and laugh and all of that with that. It's got to be hard. It's got to be complicated. So I took on this phrase: the easier I make it, the better life gets. And when I first wrote it, I hated it. My whole body was like, I hate that. Like it had a lot of resistance to that concept. It felt very not right. So now, oh, I just look for the easy. Like what feels easy? What feels relaxed? What feels like right? What feels like the match? Let's do that one first, not last. We don't have to earn that one. We get to do it first. So that's a good example of a power perspective that has changed my life. All right. So you may want closure. You may want progress. Let's get to it. It doesn't matter. You're going to ditch some stuff through this process. You're going to dream. You're going to create some goals, an action plan, and you will create what we call a stand for the year, which is a word for the year. We're going to do this in a 5-step process. And I want to call out your attention to the fact that this is not equal. The steps do not take equal time. So we spend a lot of time on clearing the path when we go through this process in the workbook, in the purchased course, in our live versions of this. We spend a lot of time clearing the path because, again, we don't want to create our future based on the past. And we will. We totally will. If we don't take a moment to see what kind of hangs on and what we submerge and what we, what we relegate to the basement that we won't listen to, things like that. We need to give once a year, just once a year for a minute, a little bit of time to the things that we don't really want to look at or that we're uncomfortable with. So we do go ahead and spend a lot of time on step number 1, clearing the past. The next step is to discover what really matters most to you. I mentioned that word non-negotiable. Like what has to happen before you die? We take a look at that for a second. Then we take a look at short-term goals, basically 1 year. Where do you want to be in a year on the road to that non-negotiable? Then we take a look at the way you align your mind and your behavior to that goal. A lot of you have mindset and beliefs and ways of thinking that do not align with the future that you want. And you can feel that, right? You can feel how something you want is not something you think you can have, i.e., I would love to feel like a queen in my life and receive things in my life, but I make things hard. Huh. So I can feel that way that I think about how I need to work and show up in the world, what matters, what is valuable, what is considered valid, is maybe compromising my ability to have the life I really want. So we align your mind and behavior, and then finally we develop some practices to lock it in. And so we're going to go through all of that in the next 35 minutes, just the process. So let's take a look at clearing the path. I really encourage you to start lining up your questions as well. Max, I would ask you that if we are getting like a ton of questions, if you'll just give me a little sort of ring out at about 10:40 or my time, whatever, 12:40 your time, sort of at the 40-hour mark, that would be helpful if we have a lot of questions in there. Folks, I am happy to answer those questions, and it might be the most useful part of today. So in that case, go ahead and start loading those up there as we go through this process. Thank you for the heart. I mentioned our conscious versus subconscious versus unconscious. The math here is a little funny. Don't get too stuck on it. But basically, a huge amount of how our future gets created is from 70%, 80%, 90% of what is pretty much occluded to us. So something that we're not in conscious connection with or control of is creating what you do. It's hard to own that, especially for all of us Northwesterners. But Holly, just think about that. If you could, if you got this far in your life, this far, on that 10%, wow, what could you do if you got access to the rest? And that's what we're going to do right now. So we encourage you all to, the first step of the process here is to start an inventory list. And we're going to do it in two categories. The first category is the wins, the accomplishments, the completions. So it may be something that you feel about, but you did it. Or it may be something you're like, I did it. I'm awesome. I love this. I'm so happy. That was huge and exhausting, right? So a good example, I graduated from my master's program, right? We want to then move over into a look at what strengths or skills or qualities were developed as I created this win, right? So I'm going to just ask you all right now to do this process on one item because we're going to learn the process in the time today, and then we're going to give you, you guys have the resources to go and actually move yourself through the process yourself or with, a partner, a friend, a coach, or somebody like that. So just write one win and make it the easy one. Like you don't have to look for the biggest one or the most profound one. Just what's something that got done. And as you see and feel that, move over to this column. What strengths or skills or qualities were developed as I created this win? So as you created that win, so for example, I can teach and consult and find a solution to world hunger because of my master's degree. Yay. Next question is, how can I now move on? What can I now move on to be, do, or have based on this success? So I can, actually have a career, or I could actually solve world hunger, I think, based on this, degree. So those are some questions that we might want to consider. And again, we're not going to lean into all of them today, but just for a minute. What strengths were developed, skills, qualities, and what are you now positioned to be, do, or have based on that? Let's just take a moment to do that. Don't worry about the ranking just yet. And if you have one, I would just like to know that I've got some participation here. So Max can, I'm thinking people can chat, but maybe they can just do Q&A. So wherever you're allowed to participate and populate, you guys, go ahead and put it in there. If you can't chat to me, to everyone, then put a question in, just put a comment in. Yes, feel free to chat or Q&A. Thank you so much, Matt. Okay, so you guys, just everyone, just so I know you guys are live and out there and functioning, if you all would please just somebody populate in there, yeah, good. Thank you, Jennifer Taylor Doris. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Nice to see you. So completed med school and residency. So awesome. And what skills or strengths or qualities were developed? And we might want, obviously, the skill of medical skills, et cetera, but what other skills, internal maybe, might have been created? So add that. And also, what are you now positioned to be, do, or have? So Jennifer, if you can also populate that in there, we'd love to see it. And the rest of you, you may want to populate in here. It's really good to be witnessed in the list of things that happened, folks. So take a moment to do that with just one thing. And if anyone else wants to populate, we'd love to see it into chat or just write it on your little cheat sheet. Learned resilience and perseverance. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Really appreciate that answer. Yeah. And what is she, positioned to do? So much. Major resolution of persistent health issue. Awesome, Kermit. That's so amazing. Started volunteer tutoring to see if I could be a teacher. Oh, gosh, that's great. So yeah, reach and learn to trust. Oh my gosh, Phil. This is something that I have learned is one of the key soul to personality adjustments for our clients over the years. The clients that I've had for 20 years, those who can begin to learn into some big, major sort of soul-driven learning, foundational adjustments to their personality, like trust and acceptance, their worlds change, their lives change. So can now create my own practice. Exactly right, Jennifer. So thank you, everyone. Completed strategy with my management team for the first time. Learned to bring everyone along and to build consensus. That's a huge thing. And so what are we now positioned to do? Build consensus with my family, build consensus with my, friendships, build consensus in the world, maybe, right? Okay, good. You guys are on it. So the next piece we do here is to rank this. And what we're doing is ranking a sense of completion, which doesn't mean, and you might think, well, what wouldn't we all be at a 10 with all our wins? But the reality is no. Let's say you had a win, and some of you will have some things on your wins column in your wins inventory that is also on your losses. For example, divorce. You might have a divorce that is a win because you made a decision and you moved on, but also a loss, right? And you may have, on the sense of completion about that, you may be at a 5, right? You may just, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not feeling complete, which means in our word, we say, okay with how it is, okay with how it is not. So, are you okay with how it is and how it isn't? If you are satisfied with how it is and how it isn't at this moment in time, this thing, then you can write a 10. If you're really not okay, you're at a 0 or a 1. And some of you may be right in the middle. So you would rank all of your, accomplishments. For the one that you just did, just rank it. Where am I in terms of completion? And just put that number in chat. Okay. So, for example, Lizzie recovered to a new normal from a major health issue. She might be feeling like awesome about that, or she might be feeling like, I'm a little afraid still that it will come back or whatever. So, 7, 5, I don't know. So this is very important. And this is where we get digging down into that unconscious. And I just want to encourage you all. We do this process. I built this process to be asked backwards, like so that your conscious brain couldn't control us in the process. So just trust the process. Just do it. And as you lean away from this 1 hour that you're in right now, and you go back and you do this whole process on your own and you take some time to slow down before speeding up into 2026, you'll just want to let the process do you, not try to control it. You'll find that ranking things brings awareness on an unconscious and subconscious level that'll be super valuable and helpful. So we give that 11, I know normally a scale of 10, 1 to 10, but 11 just helps everyone understand that, once we get to 10, then we're at 1 again, all the way to that's the next level of great, right? So 11 is just a fun little way to talk about that, totally complete. So we have a little process here, this process, and we're going to do it for for the losses list, which is your next inventory. This is where, of course, things tend to submerge and hide even more. Some of you are really good at, you've got a lot of stuff buried in the wins, and you have a lot of like, gosh, I notice I don't even celebrate wins ever. I'll just say to you all that as a Northwestern, alumni, that was the profile for me. Again, it's got to be hard, it's got to be complicated, and I can never say I'm done. I can never say I've won, that I really did a good job. So it really took me a long time in life to learn to love the thing where it got to and to be like, I rock. Like it just was all too hard. So for many of you, the awakening will start deeply in the wins list. For others of you, and for all of you, the losses list will bear a lot of fruit as well. So our next inventory list is losses, failures, incompletions, just car failed to drive. Whether we have a big hit of negativity around that or not is a question. And at this moment, we're going to employ an extra tool called the perspective scale. We're going to go to the past inventory, and we're going to utilize this scale as we think about each failure, loss, or incompletion on your chart. And the scale looks like this. 1, these are just emotions. And I just want to invite you to just be super light about this. You might want to take a screenshot of this if you're not going to activate and, go get the course or whatever. You might want to take a screenshot of this to help you with just what those perspectives are. And I want to encourage you all, if the word that you're feeling is not on this list, find the word you're feeling and figure out where it would fit on, like, which number. Is it a 3? Is it a 2? Is it a 7? And then add that word there. Like make it yours, folks. So at 1, we have that despair and torment. I cannot let this go. I am not okay with this, how it is and how it isn't. At 11, total freedom, total joy, total faith, empowerment, passion, right? So that is the scale. And we would want to go through all our inventory. And I'll just stop and say, because we're going to move on in the process here, right? Writing these inventory lists can take an hour. It can take, you can capture these inventory lists over a few days. Our clients who have done this over years, like done it every year, they start their inventory list at the end of December. They just kind of naturally start to add wins, losses, and just build it as they go, oh, that's on there. A good way to find things is to go back through your calendar, January 2025 to December 2025, and just January, February, March, April, what was happening? And you will start to wake up to, oh, right, that was something that was going on. So these lists can take a little while and ranking them, doing the harder work of what, have you made it mean? So to look at the inventory list for lots of failures and incompletions, the questions are a little different and the order is a little different. First, we list them. Didn't lose weight, for example. We rank it one, despair for this person. What have I made this mean about me or my future? What is the perspective I currently hold about this loss, failure, or incompletion? So, for example, for this person, they might have made this mean that they are incapable of losing weight and that they will always be in a body that they hate. So we want to answer that question. This is hugely important to uncover all that unconscious, subconscious. And again, don't get too smart here. All my smarty pants is just do it. Just write, just fill in the thing and then get all the way over. So we just want to write all our losses, failures, and completions, and then we want to rank them, and then we want to go back up to the top and figure out, well, what do we feel there? And again, it might be really helpful to have someone to talk to through that list. It can be hard to really even see what we've made something mean. But even when we do this on a fast cursory level, when I don't have a lot of time to do this, I set 30 minutes for each list and I do my level best in a skeleton version. So we're just teaching the process today. And then we take a look at what would it take to move 2 points higher on the scale. So if you're at 1, what would a 3 look like? And then we take a look at what needs to happen for this to be an 11. And that can take a little while to figure out. Like, gosh, for me to be at an 11 about my body and about my weight, I would need to be like in a just a completely different relationship with this, where I didn't even, I never looked at it again. And where health or something was not about self-value, it was just about honoring my body and making sure I live. It wasn't a personal, what do you call it? It didn't mean anything about me. It just meant it was just a body, a carcass that I take care of, like I take care of my car. Like what would have to happen for things to really change here? So that can be a little hard to come to. It can take a little bit of time, but these questions are awesome. They will really move things into front view and out of your unconscious into consciousness without you even quite realizing that the process is doing that. All right. So we're going to transfer all the losses and incompletions from the master list. We're going to write this down. We're going to fill in what would 2 points higher look like and what would 10 points higher look like. And this workbook here is a preliminary prep work book, which is why you're seeing weight fill this in during the workshop. For you guys, you can get the actual workbook. I gave you the link there in chat, and I'll do it again. I'll populate it in again. But you can just, go ahead and attack it when you get out of this webinar. So we're going to do that and rank everything, wins and losses. Once we've got those rankings, we're going to be now moving on to the next step of clearing the past. And this is a beautiful step. We call it the incompletion gauntlet. And in this moment, in this step, what happens is that we take a look at those ones that are so stuck. So anything below a 5, really, especially things that are at a 3 or below, but anything below a 5 and below, we want to process through these questions. And we ask 6 questions to complete. Number 1, what is the loss, failure, or incompletion? Or we might even have a win on here that we're at a 3 on. When I realized that I was not good at embracing wins at all, I felt I had a huge amount of grief about how much of my life I had lived being pestered, persecuted by not feeling like I was enough. So I had all these wins that I had not celebrated, and they were all at about a 3 because they just hadn't, yeah. So you can have a win on a list that you need to process through the incompletion gauntlet. So loss, failure, incompletion, win, fine. What number does it rank on the scale? For example, a client might say, my mom's death due to cancer. I feel stuck in despair about her passing. And this probably ranks at about a 1 on that perspective scale. The next question, what is the story or the complaint? We really want you to just rant here. She wasn't supposed to die. I did everything I could to keep her alive. She was determined to eat unhealthy foods despite her illness, and I tried to get her to change, but she wouldn't. It was horrible, and I can't believe she's gone. Okay, lots of blame and shame and anger and frustration and helplessness in that rant. Our next question, close your eyes and check in with yourself. What are the facts or the truth about this? And this can be really helpful to have someone else ask you these questions. Sidebar, we are actually putting this process into an app, into a AI, so that an AI can ask you the questions, calculate your answers, put them all into an organized format and give them back to you. Really excited about that. So the facts are that the doctor caught the cancer in its final stages. They gave her 2 months to live, and she held on for almost a year, thanks to my help. The truth is that she was ready to go when she died, and I gave her the opportunity to die at home and in peace. It may not have been easy, but she went peacefully, and I just miss her. So that might be more of the facts and the truth. Once we've written the facts and the truth, we need to release or perhaps forgive. So we ask the question, what do you forgive or release? And we give you some examples here, like blame or guilt. Blame, I release the blame that I placed on the doctors, on my mom, and on myself. Guilt, I release the guilt that I have and instead choose to acknowledge myself for helping her die in peace. Shame, I don't feel shame here, maybe. Anger, I forgive my mother for not going to the doctor sooner, and I release the anger toward the medicines. Fear, I release any fear about where she is now. I trust she's in a better place. Other, disappointment, regret, frustration, rage. So, what do you forgive or release? And once we've cleared out and forgiven and released, we are in a more resourced place, and we can ask the question, to what do you commit now? Is it an action? I commit to getting in touch with a grief support group. Is it a conversation? Maybe writing mom a letter. Maybe it's creating a new goal. By this time next year, my goal is to feel at peace with her passing. I know I'm at peace when I can look through her things and smile instead of crying when I think of her. Maybe it's something else. And then finally, we ask the question, where are you on the perspective scale now? So at this point, lots of processing, and we can often move pretty far up that scale to clear out the past. And the value of that is that we are not in a reactive place when we start to create our future. So important. And we are aware of how we calculate things. So as we go into the future and we think about things that are going to be bigger than we've ever done or deeper than we've ever felt or something really juicy but not familiar, we have more resource, more strength, more power to do that. So this is really critical to go through this clearing of the past. And if you skip it, you will find you create a future that is better, but a lot like the past you've lived, just better. So if you want to be really radically shifting your life, just ending up with very different relationships, very different money, very different time, very different body, very different joy, then we need to clear the past in this way every year if we can. All right. So the last thing we do in the clearing the past process, and like I said, it takes the most amount of time, so don't worry, we're still on track here, is to just capture some lessons. And what we want to do is we want to capture those lessons in a phraseology. We want to phrase them in ways that pull us forward, not in ways that leave us static. So we wouldn't say, I learned that I'm not very good at piano. We would say, I learned that there are myriad ways to express my creativity, and the ones that come out, that I align with easily are the best ones to pursue. Maybe there's a shorter way to say that. I pursue creativity that comes easily to me. The creativity that comes easiest to me is my strength, is my gift. So some sort of lesson that will pull us forward, teach us how to behave. And those definitely go on the Power Perspective deck, right? So we would take a moment Here are some examples of lessons that people have used in the past. The easier I make it, the better life gets. Like I said, my first power perspective on my deck. Sometimes it's more important to be kind than it is to be right. Some of you might be like, what? I remember when I actually wrote that power perspective down and that lesson, that I thought that, being honest and truthful and thorough and whatnot was really important in relationships and with people. But you know what? Sometimes it's not as important as just being kind. In terms of the goals that I had, like it never produced the outcome I wanted, or not always, right? So I shorten the path when I dream first, then do, instead of jumping into action before I really breathe into the space. So these are some lessons that I've learned over the past that I wrote down here for you all to write down as you process those inventory sheets. And then we do a little completion ritual just so you can close it up and declare it complete. And it goes like this. As I complete the past, I celebrate the most important wins, successes, accomplishments, right? The big ones that you really you need to pay attention to and not skip. And then I release the losses, the failures, the incompletions, all the ones that showed up on the incompletion gauntlet, those low numbers especially. I release those, or I release the bigger ones, the more easy ones to release, and I intend to process the other ones as I move forward into the new year. I will remember your lessons go there. And you have that nice, neat thing. And you can either write that on one single power perspective deck, card, and keep it, or you can do what a lot of our clients do, which is write that ritual down and burn it or share it. It's very useful to share that with someone else before you move into creating the future, which is where we are right now and where we want to be. I do see we've got a few questions going on here, so I'll answer them as we get to the end. The next 4 steps are relatively quick. You are done with step number 1, and we're moving into discovering what matters most to you. This is step 2 in the process, and this is where we ask, where are you with satisfaction now? And what is it that is non-negotiable that needs to change? Like if your life were to end today. So the first thing we do is we rank where you feel you are now. So you can get a snapshot of your satisfaction level just today. And this ranking can change. It can change tomorrow. So it's useful to get kind of like, where am I feeling I am in these areas in my life? We draw a line where we feel we are. 10 is awesome in that arena, physical environment, for example. 1 is the inside of the pinpoint of the axis of this life wheel. Many of you all have seen this and use it. It's a very useful tool. We have our clients do this a lot just to say, all right, where are you today? Where are you today? And then we move into a process that is super productive, based on Gay Hendricks' 5 Wishes work, which you can go find that little book. It's called The 5 Wishes. We've taken the process a little bit further, but the question is, if your life ended today, what would be your most emotionally charged regrets? And about what would you say, I wish that I had, fill in that blank. I didn't get to. So in my world, for example, early on when I was starting a business and I had transitioned into a new career, if I had died that day, I would have said, I didn't get to earn enough money to get beyond survival. I wasn't able to fund adventure for myself and others. I wanted to have enough money to not just survive, but to thrive, and also to help other people thrive a little bit financially to pay for the fun, right? So that became one of my life goals, which is what we're looking for out of this process. I wish I'd had enough money to fund adventure for myself and others turns into a life goal that is where you want to be. Before you die or as you die, you want to be able to say, I was able to fund adventure for myself and others, perhaps. This is a list of the life goals that I've come up with. And here's the neat thing. When you do this process, this life goals clarifying process, it's really awesome because they don't change that much. And again, I've had clients that have done this 20 years in a row. And while there may be life goals that they're mostly living 100% now, they still are exactly what they want. So then it becomes a matter of maintenance and expansion into that goal. So it needs to be a relatively broad statement. It can't be, a life goal of earning $200,000 in 10 days. That's too specific. So, but what about money, or what about energy, or what about love or romance? So all those areas on that life wheel, we want to have a sense of, you know, that where is it that is non-negotiable for me? If life were to be a complete success, I were to be done today, exactly where things are, what wouldn't have happened? What I didn't get to, I wish I had. And let's turn those into then positively formatted, largely general statements that we can call life goals. And we would want to put those life goals into a Power Perspective deck for sure. 100%. So here are some of mine. My children know and want to return home, right? Relationships, blissful love, healthy mind, body, spirit, no creative regrets. So, you guys, we do want to be really careful not to articulate life goals that really do are out of our control. And number two, children who know and want to come home is a little bit in that category. Like, I can't control what my children do. But the life goal called, I know what this life goal means, and I've kind of condensed it. If I were to articulate it in the what I can control statement, it might say, I have done everything I can to support my children to know what home is internally, like emotionally, psychically, and to feel that the place where they come to visit me, to when they come to this space where I am, it feels like home to them and they want to go there, that they want to go to that place. And so, as I was raising children as a single mom, this was hugely important for me. It totally transformed the way I parented. There were plenty of things I did that I thought, they will not feel stable if I keep it up this way. I'll be right, but they won't win. And they won't have that intrinsic motivation. It just instructed everything I did about how I raised them. And now they come home all the time. We're actually going skiing this weekend. They want to come. And this time they were like, I was like, gosh, it's kind of a small group. There's nobody else coming with us. They're like, we just want to be with you, Mom. We just want to be together as a threesome, the two kids and me. So really fun that they were like, yeah, that's what we want. So that not able to control certain aspects, only what you can control is what we want on those life goals. So that is step two, is identifying those life goals. And we want to get about 5 of them. 7 is a lot, 9 is a lot. 2 or 3, maybe not like we might have a few more than that. So we like the number 5 for life goals, and you can use those parts of your life to identify those. The next piece is all about getting to the nitty-gritty of how does that look this year? So we use a very useful little tool to define short-term goals and get that clear action plan, step number 3. Basically, we look for a tangible expression of a goal and an intangible expression. So how can we see it and observe it is tangible, know that it happened. And then how do we feel it? How do we just intuit that it's there? Right? So we want both expressions of a goal when we write them down, and we're going to put them into a 1-year status. So if I'm going to be at this place, like funded adventure for my life, myself and others, let's say, at the end of my life, that expression of my life goals, right? Funded adventure for myself and others. Well, that's going to be a different amount of money every year, right? What would that look like? How would I know I was on track to that this year? Well, maybe a goal would be to pay for an awesome ski trip for myself and my friends, which actually was a goal that I accomplished. So cool. But there was a time in my life where I couldn't even pay for me to go on a ski trip, never mind a bunch of other people to go. So that right there would be my 1-year goal, to fully fund a awesome ski trip for 6 people, for example. That might be a 1-year goal on the way to funding adventure for myself and others forever. So that's a good example of a 1-year goal that we will put in this little tool that, hold on a minute. I'm racing forward to the part that really I want you all to get today, which is the word for the year. So here's what our goals chart looks like. We start at the bottom. This is important. So if you're doing this work outside of this workshop, you want to put all your life goals in categories. So you would label the category of your life at the top here, and you would then start. So maybe finances would be at the top, or financial health, or abundance, or wealth at the top as a title for this column. And instead of going to 1 month to get started in the planning, we go to the life goal first, funded adventure for myself and others. And then we say, in a year, how will I know I'm on track to that? What would be present tangibly? ski trip for 6 people that I paid for. Great. Intangibly, everyone had a good time. I felt relaxed, happy, and not constricted about it. Great. It did not compromise my financial health and well-being, and I felt powerful in the choice. Okay, great. That's an intangible, tangible goal at 1 year. Then where will I need to be in 9 months or 6 months in order to be on track to that ski trip? How much money should I be earning? How much room should I be carving out? Right? In 3 months, where would I need to be on track to that savings for that trip in 6 months? In 1 month, where do I need to be on track to 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year? That's how we do this reverse engineer. This goals chart will inform your year beautifully. And we find that this takes a little while to fill in. I recommend that you set an hour to do it with your life goals at the bottom there, and that you do a really crappy skeletal version of a reverse engineer and always start at the end. Where do I want to be in my life? Where would I need to be in a year in order to be on the way to that? And then where would I need to be consecutively reverse engineering back, and just do a really quick expression of that so that you get something down on the paper. You'll find that 1 month is very active with actions, tactics, and 1 year is very amorphous, but clear, sort of tangible, intangible expression. And the middle is a little harder to lay out. And don't worry about that. It's going to change. We're going to see what was realistic. And the major win about this process you guys, is that you learn how you tend to think about action in your life and why so many things do or don't get done in your world. As you reverse engineer, you will see the truth of what something takes. You will begin to think, oh, I see. If I'm supposed to be there in September, gosh, that's actually not that far away. Huh. Maybe I need to change that life goal or that 1 year goal. Maybe that's a little too much to stretch for. I know Anthony Robbins of late and people in the past have said, we tend to underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate, or in a lifetime, and overestimate what we can do in a year. So I find that huge changes can occur in a year. And especially it is helped by reverse engineering because it gets us honest and brave. If I want to be on the way to funded adventure and have that ski trip, I need to say no to all these other things I probably would have said yes to. And I would have hoped, I would have thought, well, I'll somehow get a big ticket client through the door, or, that big job will come in and pay for everything. And, we would be in a non-reality status with that goal. So this goals chart is a wonderful tool. We have our clients use these goals charts to help them really transform their lives. The last part of the process to calculate, the rest of it is about sort of behavior alignment. But to get to these outcomes, you're going to need to be somebody different. Most of you are wanting to go somewhere in a year that you have not yet been. So who you be on the road to that outcome is going to be different. And we need to get a way for your brain to get onto that path over and over again, all the time, with all your decisions, with one word or a short phrase. And the way we do that is to align our mind and behavior with something that we call a stand. This is a word or a phrase that allows you to consider who you will need to be if you are going to accomplish those goals. Who will you need to be? And as we look at that stand, we're going to step out of your normal behavior and patterns. And this is why it can be so helpful to have someone else do this with you. Someone who knows you really well, how you tend to limit yourself, or knows how to ask the right questions to get you awake and aware about where you stop. Because you will find a word that you probably already know and that feels a little bit dangerous or a little bit unfamiliar, but not really the word that absolutely will transform your life and have you meet up with those goals at the end. And this is why our clients get to their goals. Yes, exactly, Ishrat. Somebody to hold you accountable when stepping out of that normal behavior and pattern. Exactly. So we want to be able to be pulled forward there. So I'll give you some examples of stands that people have used. If you are somebody that tends to put everyone first, you might want a stand that feels all of the stands that come out of this process right now at this point, all of your stands here in this room should be something that is feels a little naughty and feels a little like, oh, I don't even know how to do that. I'm not sure how to do that. But if I did, I bet and if I was comfortable doing that, if I did that easily and it became a habit of mine, my whole life would change. So I'll give you an example of one of my first early stands when I was building my early business as a coach. And I didn't know, I was really young, I was 28. And nobody knew what a coach was back then. They thought it was somebody like an athlete, right? Somebody to coach an athlete. A life coach, what was that? I was in the third graduating body of one of the most revered training institutes in the world on coaching, and there had only been 3 cohorts that had gone through yet, right? So, like, nobody knew what coaching was. I did not have all that much confidence, but I had a lot of intuitive, innate capability in this arena. It was a really good profession for me to pick. And I realized that I was super polite, but if I wanted to really make a difference in the world, I would need to be willing to stick out a little. And I had not done that. Ironically, I had been an actress before, and that was easy because I got to be somebody else, right? I could use all my gifts of intuition and understanding humans and all of that to flow it through someone else, some other character, but being myself out there. So I took on a stand, hot ticket to Wonderland, get on board, which was a crazy stand to take. I figured, and I shortened it down to hot ticket. And every time I thought about an action I was going to take, a thought I had, I would think, does hot ticket think that way? Like, I was polite. I was not a braggart. I did not want to stick out, right? But I thought, if I'm going to lead and make a difference, make the change for humans that I want to make, I'm going to need to be okay with being out in front. So that hot ticket told me how to behave. And man, was I uncomfortable for a year. But also, I got to live into that leadership, that skill set. I learned what it took to do that. Other versions of that became things like graceful CEO when I adopted, team and had a lot of people to lead underneath me. Then, as I expanded across the world, global mogul, always uncomfortable for me. CEO, mogul, So just know that there are iterations of those stands that can occur, but those stands need to feel a little uncomfortable. But like if you did them, if everything would change, it would be in the direction of those life goals, those 1 year goals, and it would absolutely help you check that box. Okay. So we want, and for some of you, it's not about expansion, hot ticket. It's about baby steps. It's about stop doing everything all at once. Stop the grandiosity, right? So I know we're coming up to time here. When we have a stand, we want to align with really clear yeses and really clear nos. Positive thinking, meditation, exercise to healthy food, and healthy foods, confidence, no to doubt, anxiety, asking for my mother's advice, caffeine. These are good examples of I stand for hot ticket. I will say no to, and then a list of things that relate to that. I will say yes to, and this is really critical. And those go on your power perspective deck. And at the end of this process, we create this little ritual. I stand for blank. I will say yes to 3 things. I will say no to 3 other things. And we post that somewhere, put it in our power perspective deck, tell our friends about that. And we are through that 4th process. The final bit of work here is to keep yourself in the process. And the way we do that, and you can check this out in the workbook as you take a look at it, which is free and it's in the link. Let me actually put all these links in here again, just so you guys can find them before we all leave. Let's see. Sure. There you go. Last posting there in the link. So there's a workbook at the end there. At the end of the workbook, we outline some of these behaviors these practices that can help you lean in to the outcome that you might have been looking for. Overall, always thinking, dream, believe, commit, embrace. Dream, believe, commit, embrace, and not skipping any steps as you look to expand. What is the dream? What do I believe in it? And so that goals chart, reverse engineering, helps you to believe. Putting a stand in place, a yes and a no, that helps you to commit. Embracing, leaning into have I dreamed? Am I in belief? Am I in commitment? So this is a little success practice cycle. I use it to make sure I know where my clients are. And anytime they falter, I ask them like, where's your belief? Or did we dream on this one? I don't know what the expression of the goal is here. Let's slow down and go back to the dream. What are we doing here? Or, I see you believe it, but you're not really showing up to practice these. You don't have a goals chart. You don't have a system. We haven't outlined that across a couple months. Let's do that, right? Or embrace. I'm showing up every day with a pattern. So this is something we do every morning. We encourage our clients to do every morning or every night. Great. What are you grateful for? What will you release that's not in alignment with that? What do you want to receive? All the things, even if you're not sure how. And then, okay, those are all order up, universe. What will you deliver now and next? Grateful, release, receive, deliver. These are two practices, just these two. And then we tell you here in the workshop what you can do and on what cadence to keep in alignment with this work that we've done today. So to wrap us up today, you can consider always thinking, dream, believe, commit, embrace, where am I? Daily, grateful, release, receive, deliver. Monthly, goals chart review. Monthly, power perspective, flip deck. And annually, come to seize your dream, life goals, do this process, walk yourself through the workbook, watch the videos again, make sure you've done the process. So I hope this has been helpful. We're skidding into home base right here at the top of the hour. I don't know that it seemed like we didn't have that many questions, but I don't know if we can go over just a tiny bit, but I'm willing to answer a couple questions, or we can just say done. Max, what do you want to do?
Yeah, Melissa, thank you so much for this. And thank you, everybody. It was great to see everyone again in the new year. I think you did a great job of addressing the questions that had come up. I don't think there are any outstanding questions. If you do have one and it wasn't answered, please do feel free to email us at naacareers@northwestern.edu. We're happy to help. The only question we've got left is just the workbook doesn't appear to have the goal chart used in the presentation. Is it somewhere else? Kermit, I can even answer that one. We're going to send all of these, and I can include that if Melissa, if you're okay with it in the email.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure that you're right. It may not, that goals chart may not be in there. So I'll just give you a link to a goals chart that people can copy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. Melissa, thank you so much again. Take care. Happy New Year.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.